I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is love mobs. This one's going to be for both men and women, so that everyone can better understand a very common phenomenon in the sexual marketplace. Let's get to it. As I discussed at greater length in my episode, What Women Want what other women want. Since women are more concerned about safety than men are, for a number of reasons, women often congregate around the modal behaviors and opinions as suggested by their observations of other women. Just like fish in a school, it's generally safest in the middle of the shoal. And that's why we see the constantly shifting emergent phenomenon of faddishness more with women than with men. Now, this occurs in fashion and travel and political opinions and TV shows and pretty much any trait or behavior that can be visibly signified to another. And if it happens in all these other domains, we shouldn't be particularly surprised that it also occurs in the sexual marketplace. Here, in the realm of mating and dating, this tendency creates phenomena in which vast quantities of women tend to congregate around a very small minority of men. I'm going to call this phenomenon a love mob. Now, any man who wasn't the popular guy in high school already knows this to be true. Guys, just think back to those times. Was female sexual interest distributed evenly or even normally across the population? Or were the majority of girls focused on a few very popular boys? Most likely the latter, right? And if you weren't one of those popular boys, well, maybe you can get into band or drama or physics or something and bide your time. And lest anyone argue that this kind of behavior is only observable in the puppy love of teenage crushes, the World Cup has given us a wonderful opportunity to see this phenomenon in action in real time. Cabo Verde, a small African island nation, became the world's underdog sweetheart after pulling off a draw with Spain, one of the world's top-ranked teams. This draw was largely due to Cabo Verde's goalie, Josimar Diaz, who made a number of fantastic saves to deny the Spaniards. In fact, he was named man of the match and became a national hero overnight. Now, before this match, Diaz had 50,000 followers on Instagram. By the end of that week, he had 15 million. 15 million subscribers. That's as many as Tom Brady, arguably the greatest player in the history of that sport. This rapid transformation is an excellent example of love mobbing. Now, I don't know what percentage of Diaz's new followers were women, but I'm willing to bet quite a few. And I'm comfortable in this wager because we also know that by the end of that week, Diaz himself was following over 2,000 new women, up from fewer than 200 overall follows the week previous. Parabéns, Señor Diaz. All right, there are several useful things we can learn from this love mobbing phenomenon. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge how extremely lazy most women are when it comes to dating. Like, rather than take the initiative and seek out qualified men, a woman will wait until functionally every other woman on the planet also thinks that a man is worth talking to before she throws her hat into the ring. I mean, think about it. Diaz was pretty much the same guy the day before that match with Spain than he was the day after. He was just as athletic, just as handsome, just as established in his career. He was already the starting player on a national team in a very popular sport, and he was already good enough to play at the highest levels of competition. We can argue that intrinsically he was just as attractive before the match than he was after the match. However, he became significantly more attractive extrinsically when a critical mass of women decided to make him their célébré du jour. Are you finally ready to understand how relationships really work? Then get your hands on my book, The Value of Others, How to Get and Keep More of What You Want in the Sexual Marketplace. Learn what actually moves the needle, why relationships fail, and how to position yourself for success in this strange new world of mating and dating. Over 100,000 copies sold. Get yours today. Now available in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. The links are in the description. Unfortunately, this laziness means that women are going to miss out on a lot of great opportunities. As I've mentioned previously, it behooves women to be hunters and to hunt for qualified men the same way that an investor hunts for undervalued companies. Wait until the company blows up and you miss your chance to make a killing. It also suggests that women don't really know what to look for in a man, and so they outsource their diligence to the crowd. This can be an effective heuristic, but it also leads to a lot of instability and chaos in much the same way that the same behavior leads to panics, rushes, and bubbles in the financial market. But let's move on to the second thing we can learn here. Namely, this strategy is highly ineffective for women. Again, I don't know the exact numbers, but let's assume that 2 million of those 15 million new followers were women, which seems like a conservative estimate. Remember, Diaz only followed 2,000 of these women back. And you absolutely cannot get anywhere with a man if you cannot capture his attention. This means that 0.1% of those women, 1 in 1,000, got a follow back. It should go without saying, but those are not very good odds. But wait, there's more. Even if a woman were to make the cut, even if she were one of the lucky 2,000, now her odds are even worse. That's right, they're even worse. Like now that woman needs to beat out another 1,999 women for that man's attention or commitment. That's a likelihood at 0.05%, functionally half as good as making it past the first cut. And the women she would have to compete with, the other 1,999 women who got a follow back, are going to be significantly harder to beat, as these are the women that Diaz himself selected. Ladies, have you ever been hired for a job where you had to beat out 1,999 other applicants? Have you ever secured a position in that competitive of a context? Like, someone has to win the lottery, I suppose. And if the ticket is effectively free, then why not play? But hoping that your number will come up is an absolutely terrible financial strategy. A much better strategy, as I've previously discussed, is for women to find their dark horse. I'm telling you, you will not beat out your competition after he crosses the finish line. You got to place your bet before the race is run. And to do that effectively, women have to actually learn about men. And this is important. They have to stop looking to other women to determine who is attractive. Women have to study and examine and manage some independent thought in order to beat out their intersexual competition, especially if they're not a world-class beauty. Like, imagine how much easier it would have been to slide into Diaz's DMs the day before the match. Remember, he had only 50,000 followers at that point, and I imagine most of them were men. Given what subsequently occurred, we can pretty confidently conclude that this guy was an undervalued company. In fact, it's not even really fair to call this guy a dark horse. Like, he wasn't just some young guy with potential. He was a 40-year-old man at the peak of his career, and that still went largely unnoticed. When women are lazy, when they don't think for themselves, when they wait to take action until they can be sure that all the other women around them will approve, then they outsource their relationships to the mob, which does not end well for women. That said, I hope this guy enjoys all the attention that he's getting. It sounds like he's found at least a few thousand interested parties, and I'm sure he's going to have a great time. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And please send this episode to someone who you think might benefit from its message. Send it to Diaz. That would be really cool, because it's word of mouth referrals like this that really help to make the channel grow. Now, my other value is getting longer, so I have to kind of consolidate my pitch here at the end. I have a lot for you elsewhere. So I have a free weekly newsletter. I have the opportunity to book paid one-on-one consultations with me. I have my books, my bestseller on relationships, The Value of Others, and my novel about Vincent van Gogh, Starry Night. I have my agent, Orion AI, providing round-the-clock counsel whenever you need it. And I have my private community, the Captain's Quarters, where I respond to your issues in real time during live group consultations. The links to everything are in the description below. Check them out if you are so inclined. There is a lot of value there that I can't share here on YouTube. As always, I appreciate your support, and thank you for listening.